What's going on, my fellow gamers? It's John, and welcome to my channel. This is a closer look at RetroBat. This is a front end for running Emulation Station. And good shout out to my friend Gamester81. He's a good dude, and he's like the Yoda, the Jedi Master when it comes to stuff like this, and he helped me set this up. This is RetroBat, and I love the way it's set up. And when you pause on your different console or computer, handheld, it shows you a brief history of that console and that system, which is awesome. I love that. I have over 80,000 games on here, believe it or not. Some complete sets, including the complete set of Xbox, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, etc. For the sake of this video, I can't show you all 80,000, right? That'd take forever and I would bore you to death. But I'm going to show you some games that are a little bit more harder to run. They may not be easy to find necessarily in the wild. There might be some arcades that you just wouldn't normally be able to play without emulation. And so I do think there is a place for emulation in retro gaming, right? Do I prefer playing the original hardware? Of course. I have I have thousands of physical games and hundreds of consoles for those who know me. The first I'm going to show you is the Action Max. This is a console that came out in the 80s by Worlds of Wonder. If that name sounds familiar to you, there's the same company that did Teddy Ruxpin, that creepy bear that came out. And this was a VHS system, so it ran off VHS. And it was the light gun game, right? So the premise was you had this light gun that would interact with this VHS tape. There's only a handful. I think there's like only 6 or 7 that actually came out. And I'm using my mouse for this. I do have a light gun that is a USB light gun that I can configure to work with this as well. But for the sake of time, I'm using a mouse. And it looks great. It looks like it's running off a VHS tape. These games were kind of interesting, to say the least, right? Next system I'm going to show you. Oh, before I do that, I want to show you the RetroBat. What's really cool about RetroBat, you can actually go within RetroBat and check out each emulator, and rather than closing out RetroBat, you can go to the various emulators and you can do settings within RetroBat, which I think is a huge plus. One of the games I'm going to show you is House of the Dead Scarlet Dawn. I'm kind of upset because my capture device is not capturing this game like it should. Now you have to take my word for it. The game, I know it looks a little choppy here, but the game looks and plays amazing. I'm really pissed that my capture device isn't kind of sluggish. Some other games I have, including Star Wars Battle Pod, plays amazing, but again, the capture was sluggish. I felt bad because it does not do it justice, but you gotta take my word for it, please. Trust me, it does work. Daphne's on here too. This is a emulator that runs games like Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. But what's cool, fans have taken episodes and made their own game. So here's, for example, this is Dragon Lair. This is a cartoon show. I think it may have come out by Hanna-Barbera because the animation looks very similar to like a Scooby-Doo, for example. But what they've done is they take these episodic, these shows, and you have to hit certain actions on the controller at certain times. You'll get to see here in a second. It's like an interactive cartoon. So you got to hit right. If you don't hit, it fortunately tells you. I know the original Dragon's Lair did not tell you the actions. Fortunately, this one does, because I would not do very well at this if that was the case. But if you miss the action, you obviously die. So I think it's very creative that fans have gone through and some of the shows, and there's a lot of anime on here as well, that you get the interactive anime. And I don't remember this cartoon growing up as a kid, but I could tell it definitely came out in the 80s. I'm excited for the new Dragon's Lair 3. I've heard they're working on a new show or a new game. I love Dragon's Lair. I've always been really terrible at Dragon's Lair growing up, though, I'll be honest. But fortunately, it tells you the actions. Oh, see, I did the wrong move. Spoke too soon. FM Towns. Now, this is Fujitsu. This was a company in Japan. This is a PC only in Japan. And one game I'm going to show you is Splatterhouse, which I'm sure many of you guys have heard of. The FM Towns Marty was a consoleized version of the PC, also released only in Japan. So this is a very unique PC or console. And it was a 16-bit console, similar to graphics to like the Genesis Super Nintendo era. And FM Towns Marty itself, the consoleized version of it, it's pretty rare, even the PC, to find old school PC in Japan. And Splatterhouse plays great. This is very similar to the Genesis version. The green blood is green. Reminds me of Jason, like Friday the 13th, every time I see him, this character. And very, very challenging. But man, this game is so much fun. Love Splatterhouse and FM Towns. Really a great opportunity to play it. Going to the original Xbox, I got a complete library, of course. I'm going to show you one of the most iconic games, Halo 2. And love the boot up, classic boot up screen for the Xbox. The top menu there, the bar did disappear. And man, what's also, it upscales the graphics to higher res. And it looks really cool upscale. And this is the beginning, and it just looks like higher depth, which is great. So it's another benefit of emulation is you can upscale the graphics, make it look more modern, make it smooth. You can see it is playing fairly well here. You gotta wait for the enemies to enter. But yeah, you get the idea, man. Okay, I'll move on to another game. This is for the Xbox 360. A handful of games here. One I want to show you is BioShock 2. This is a really fun first-person shooter, a must-own for this generation of consoles, right? It's a lot of fun, very unique. I love the aesthetic. I love the look of it. Let's see how it plays. It's fairly smooth, not too bad. My capture card's not the greatest capture card, I'll be honest with you, but just take my word for it. It does play well, and I will promise I'll invest in a better capture card moving forward, but it does play well on this. I want to show you TurboGrafx 16 / PC Engine. I got a lot of import games. This is one, I don't know, Genpai Tomuden Nai no Maki, probably butchering that name. Only available in Japan, and I got a filter on here. It's a CRT filter, so it makes it look like it's playing on old CRT television. It's kind of warped with some glow to it, scan lines, and I thought I'd really enjoy this filter. And this is actually a really fun game, and that's the benefit of emulation. You're able to play these games that weren't released in North America, in our region, so it's cool to kind of explore some of these games. And it's very unique controls with the sword and how it swings, and you have some kind of control of it. Here's another one. This is Game & Watch emulator. This is Mario Cement Factory. I actually have this game. I had it as a kid, and it looks great on emulation. Looks like you're actually playing a Nintendo Game & Watch. These predate the Game Boy by several years. The next emulator I want to show you is OpenBore or Beats of Rage. These are games that fans have created, like beat-em-up games. They're fan created. This one in particular is HeMan, and it looks like I'm a fan of HeMan original. I'm an 80s kid, right? And it looks like you're playing the cartoon. It's a beat-em-up. You can see here at start game, I'll show you different character selection in HeMan. And I mean, there's a bunch of different characters, including Skeletor and even like Thundercats, and just really cool. So we'll check HeMan out. You get a bunch of different levels to choose from. I'll select a random one here. Graphically and sound-wise, it's got the voices from the show, and it looks like you're playing the cartoon, which is really cool. I think it's awesome that fans have taken the time to do this. But they've done it to other games as well, including Final Fight and Golden Axe, and there's some other ones in this folder emulator that I have. And then look at this hand about to pound me. I'll go ahead it. Very, very awesome. I don't know if She-Ra is in this game or not. I haven't seen her. I think Mordok is the main villain in this that you have to fight, who's from the She-Ra series. Okay, I want to show you the Philips CDI. This is a console that came out in the 90s. Didn't do very well. Sold in schools and hospitals and all that good stuff. But also had a home network. Philips had a partnership with Nintendo at some point to develop a Nintendo CD system. That fell through, but because of that partnership, there were some licenses that carried over from Nintendo. So there's one Mario game called Hotel Mario, which I have physically as well, in addition to this ROM. I also have the 3 Zelda games physically, but this one's the more harder to find Zelda game. This is Zelda's Adventure. They're really bad Zelda games, guys. This one's more unique in the sense that this is not like the other 2. This is the better of the 3. Graphically, it looks like a Flash game. You actually play as Zelda. You don't play as Link. It's a top-down adventure game like a typical Zelda game back in the 90s was, but it's not great. The voice acting is really bad. It's got some interesting graphics you'll see here in a second, and it's because it's a Zelda game. This game is quite valuable. When you start the game, you don't have any weapons. You have nothing. You have to get the sword. You have to buy the sword, get gems. Every time you transition to a different screen, it kind of pauses, which is a little awkward. Sound-wise, though, there's some cool sound effects in this game. There's some enemies, some boomerangs and stuff. Not quite sure what those enemies are. But the game does play kind of slow, as you can see here in this example. Yeah, definitely a Zelda game to forget. Here's Future Pinball. This is another emulator I'm going to show you. This is Batman. I actually have this game. This is by Data East. I have a real Batman pinball. And I wanted to test this out to see how authentic it is to the real thing, sound-wise and just control-wise, and you know, all that good stuff. And actually, it plays fairly well. What's cool about Future Pinball, you can change the camera angle. Let's go launch it, and sound-wise, it sounds just like it. I can tell you, it does kind of feel like playing the real pinball. And what's also neat is people have created like fan games. This is Die Hard, for example. It never came out physically. There's no real Die Hard table, but people have come through and created their own tables. There's a HeMan table as well, and some other really cool Home Alone and some other random tables that are available through Future Pin. So if you like pinball, definitely check out Future Pin. Google it. There's a bunch of digital pinballs on there, worth checking out. This is Model 3. This is by Sega Arcade. This is the kind of 90s, mid-90s. This is Lost World. This is the shooter that they came out with. The best way to explain it would be like House of the Dead meets Jurassic Park. I'm using my mouse for the cursor, for the aim. It is a 2-player game, so you see there's the green one there. That's player 2. It's going to stay there stationary. And if you like Jurassic Park, this is definitely an arcade game to check out. Never ported to any home consoles, to my knowledge. I don't think it came out for the Saturn. I might be wrong on that, but I don't know. Recall ever seen it for the Saturn. And if you like classic Sega shooters, arcade shooters, and you like the Jurassic Park theme, in my opinion, this is definitely a game worth playing. Watch out for the Raptors. Again, terrible voice acting, but I think that was a thing back with shooters back in the 90s. Even now, some of the arcade shooters voice acting is bad, but it's kind of give it some charm in my opinion. Moving on, this is another Sega game in the arcades. This is Planet Harrier. This is like kind of a Space Harrier, I guess, follow-up, so to speak. And I never played this before. But if you like Space Harrier, this is kind of a spiritual successor to it. It's called Planet Harrier. And plays great. A lot of fun. There's 4 different characters. Moving on is partnership with Sega and Nintendo. Never thought I would see that in the 90s, right? Nintendo and Sega working together. This is F-Zero AX, the arcade. I remember you could bring this back. This came out during the GameCube era, right? Early 2000s. And you have the EX, F-Zero EX. You should bring your GameCube memory card into the arcade and bring it to the arcade and play your game on the arcade. Graphically, it's a little bit better than the GameCube, I think. Some of the courses are a little bit different as well, to my knowledge. A lot of fun, though. Pretty unique to see in the wild. This is Mario Kart GP. This is another Nintendo partnership in the arcade, this time with Namco. There's 2 Mario Kart, GP1 and 2. Both are available through this emulation. And what's cool about Mario Kart GP is, since Namco kind of helped develop it, there's some Namco characters like Pac-Man and some of the ghosts. A lot of the weapons in this are also unique and different than what you'd see in the typical Mario Kart game. So if you're a Mario Kart fan, it's pretty cool. And what's awesome about the emulation here is you actually play, like similar to the arcade, you can play online with other people. You can still do that on the servers for Namco servers. So you can play Mario Kart GP2, for example, and play against others around the world, which is cool. And what's neat is there was a camera aspect of the arcade. You can take a picture of your face. Let's check out Grand Prix. We'll check out one of these cups. Let's do DK Cup. All unique levels. Let's do round 1. This is a pretty simple course here. There's a black shell. That was never released on any other Mario Kart, to my knowledge. Black shell. I don't even know what the black shell does. And here we go. Playing as Mario. Runs great. I'm not quite sure why it's stretching there in some parts, or going in, the aspect ratio is going in and out. I'm not quite sure what's causing that. I was playing it earlier, was not doing that, but it doesn't affect the gameplay at all. There's like a tour. Okay, now I'm going to show you Super Mario Brothers Special. This was released only in Japan for the Sharp X1 PC. And not many people realize it, but Super Mario Brothers is not exclusive to the Famicom or NES. It was actually ported to the Sharp X1 PC. And the reason that is because Sharp and Nintendo had a good partnership. Back in the 80s, Sharp released the Famicom Twin system, which basically is Famicom and disk system in one, which is an awesome console. It's kind of a pink salmon color, and also black, available in black. But this game plays very slow and it looks very sluggish. Like there's no scrolling like you typically see. The color palette obviously is way, way different. And this is not an emulator issue as far as why it's playing slow. It's actually, this is how it would play on the X1 PC. I kind of like the color palette. It's very unique. See Mario yellow and red like this, but look how slow the characters move. It's like almost like playing underwater. It's really, really bad. But like I said, it's kind of unique. Not many people know that it was released for another console or PC. So very cool thing about emulation. We're going to jump to PlayStation 2. We're going to check out, this is Outrun Coast to Coast. Really fun racer. It's ported to other consoles as well, but this is, I love Outrun by Sega, and this is probably one of my favorite Outrun games. And I love showing racing games on emulation because you can kind of see the frame rate, and you can see there's no slowdown. No issues here as far as playing it. Okay, I'm going to show you another great Sega racer, if you want to call it that. This is Crazy Taxi Fair Wars for the PSP. This is basically Crazy Taxi 1 and 2. And the filter I have on this is actually a VHS filter, so it looks like you're playing on a VHS tape. And I think this is a really fun filter for playing some classic retro games. And this particular port of Crazy Taxi doesn't have the original soundtrack, right? So Offspring, the original soundtrack had Offsprings, for example. This is missing that. But if you never played Crazy Taxi, really fun game. I highly recommend checking it out if you have a Dreamcast. Buy Crazy Taxi. I believe there was a Crazy Taxi 3 that came out for like the PlayStation 2, Xbox era, which is also unique. I think that was console only, if I recall. But there's different modes, arcade mode. And Crazy Taxi is one of those really fun games you can pick up and play and kind of get some good points, right? All right, last game I'll show you, PlayStation 3. The thing I would change the filter here, turn auto. Anyway, PlayStation 3, really fun platform, obviously great. The thing about playing with this is there is a little bit of, they have to get the modules, right? So it takes about 3 to 4 minutes to load a PlayStation 3 game. But once it plays, you can see here, it runs flawlessly. It's really good. This is Batman Arkham Asylum, or Arkham Origins. I think it's Asylum, but really fun. I love this Batman series. Let me know what you guys think of RetroBat, guys. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thanks for leaving a comment. We'll see you guys soon. Take care, and game on.